Welcome to the Imperfect Podcast. I'm Joe Kane.
I'm Dan Kane.
I'm Sal Conca.
And I'm Wayne Heckler.
And today we're going to be talking about the 48-hour challenge brought to you by Winter Film Awards. To the bumper.
We had a pretty crazy weekend this past week. We had 48 hours to make a short film. The whole premise here was that the film couldn't be any longer than 7 minutes. We were given a prop that we must use, a tagline that we had to say, and a genre that we had to fit into. So, Dan, do you remember what the prop we had to use was?
Yeah, we actually had to use Grand Central Station, which I didn't actually go for that scene. We were only allowed 5 people, a certain amount of people, and I stayed back. I wasn't needed for that, but
I thought you got gypped.
Yeah, I did. I thought it was pretty cool though. But I actually got a little nervous when I first found out because I'm picturing trying to shoot in between like 1,000 people running around, and
so you were a little bit relieved.
There was a little relief when I found out I was hanging back. So
well, I get the nervousness. I mean, it was getting on a train and getting into there, and only having a certain amount of time. We only had 1 hour in Grand Central Station to shoot the scenes that we were going to shoot. So it's high stress.
Nerve-wracking and exciting at the same time. Your heart's beating, you know what you have to do. It's, excitement with a lot of people coming through. It's good stuff.
Definitely one of the great parts of being part of an event like this, right? Being able to have an opportunity to shoot in Grand Central Station. How else would we get this opportunity?
Right, without going guerrilla style, you can't really pull these things off, and it's different. It's not with the same relaxation style, planning the shots, to give you that time. And it was only 1 hour, by the way, so you had to complete it within that 1 hour,
and you better
which
have
was definitely
everything
challenging,
you need.
right? But if you don't know Grand Central Station, definitely go check it out. It's very beautiful. It's arches. It's like a little park underground. It's a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, well, we took the night before to go scout location, so we took some pictures, tried to figure out where we would set up some scenes. So we took advantage of every minute we had in this competition. And but then there was the other interesting part. We had a tagline to say, and Joe was fortunate enough to actually have to execute that tagline. Do you still remember what it was?
Of course I do.
Let's prove it. Yeah, let's hear it, Joe.
Ready? Go.
This is New York, and there's no law against being annoying.
Bingo.
Yeah,
right.
It took me actually a couple of takes on the day of. It took me a couple of takes. I don't know why.
It was really cool though watching all the other films that were entered into the competition after we did ours, and getting to see how they incorporated that tagline into their films as well. So it's definitely a challenge. It's a challenge to figure out how you want to incorporate that line into the genre that you're given and the script that you write and all that stuff. And so Wayne, maybe you could talk a little bit about the genre that we were given.
What was really cool is the Friday night. You go to Manhattan, you get called into a conference room, you pick the genre out of a hat. So what's exciting is you don't know what it's going to be. So you can't really plan ahead of time. You have to know what you're doing. So second, again, it's a spy/cop film. So excited. It's pretty cool to do that, to be put on the spot of a spy. Now, one interesting thing is when you're doing a short film, you got to build your characters quick. And in a spy film, there has to be some intrigue right off the bat. So you have to think of what's the best way to accomplish it. You got to just move. So you keep it moving quickly, which helps you in the end because we do have to complete it within 7 minutes. But, it's definitely a true challenge to develop characters in that short of time. So it was an excellent challenge. It's always a good challenge when you're forced to do something artistic, but within these certain boundaries.
Yeah, the parameters definitely make it challenging. So what was the most fun part about this for you, Joe?
Oh, you know what? It was so high stress, and it was so go. You didn't have a second to stop and think about it. But the most fun for me was when we were done at that last minute, and we finally got to see what it was that we put together. And you know what? I'm proud of it. I think we all are proud of it. And it's putting together that final product and going, oh, all this work, all this stress, everything that we went through, and now we have something that's completed in such a short amount of time.
Yep. So, Wayne, what's the name of the film that we put together?
The Drop-Off. Yeah, you can't forget that. That's the whole premise, right off the bat, spy, intrigue. It's, very good stuff.
Well, let's just take a quick second and kind of say what we all did in the film as far as it goes. The first night we went and Sal, myself, and Wayne went in and collected the topics and the genres and the taglines and everything that we were supposed to do. And
go back to the apartment. We had to come up with an outline of a script.
Yep, we did the storyboard. We had Post-it notes on the wall.
Right, it's still there in homage to the film right now.
We said Wayne's never never gonna take them down.
I'm even editing it at this point. No, we can add this. Now it's a whole movie. You know?
Very few people have a big blank white wall to put things on, and you
Comes
happen
in
to have
handy,
it. Now
absolutely.
we've artistically created something on your wall that you're going to have there
And
forever.
if you notice, the other side is green, so you could do a green screen with everything else, the
There
rest
you
of the
go.
apartment. So it's all set up, you know.
So there were a number of challenges going into this 48-hour film contest, and I wanted to talk about some of those regarding other filmmakers that may have had hesitation in joining a contest like this, and things that you definitely can't think of ahead of time.
No.
All that type of stuff, right? So it starts on Friday night. We go in, we get our materials, and the genre and all that good stuff that we talked about, and then it's like, well, the madness ensues. So from there, maybe you could talk a little bit about the process, Joe, about where we went from there, right? We got everything from them, and then what did we do?
Well, we have to go back just a hair. Let's go back. There was some prep involved before this. I mean, there's a lot of things. We had to gather all the actors. We had to gather all of the people that were going to be involved, the crew, the cast, and
They have to sign their waivers.
well,
or
no, they
something,
didn't sign the waivers until that day.
Okay.
And gather all the equipment, not knowing what specific equipment we're going to need. So there's the prep for that. Then we go in, we get all of our other things, and then that morning, well, we went back to Wayne's house, like we started to say, and we basically hashed out what the script would be.
Yep.
And then we get there the next morning, and we have all the cast, the crew, everybody complete at that point, ready to go.
But just writing the script was a challenge, right?
Just writing the script was a challenge.
I mean, we sat around, we tossed around, I don't know how many ideas. I think we were texting you too, Dan, right? I mean, that night we were kind of hashing around a whole bunch of stuff. I think we changed the story maybe 3 times.
Sure.
I would say 3 solid times we changed the story.
Who was the lead character? What's the intro, opening scene going to be? All those things change in blink of an eye when you only got a couple hours to do this, right?
Sure.
Well,
You have to have something very clear cut. And I think what was nice about this project, it was truly a group effort. Every person there contributed to what we're doing. We would spitball, and when it all sticks, it's right. Like if all of us agree, that kind of works, because sometimes you might not see a certain angle or somebody else does, but when everyone agrees to it, okay, this is what we're going with then.
Yeah.
And as soon as that's decided, now it's time to put that thing together.
Yeah, that was actually my favorite part of the whole thing, was everybody throwing in their own ideas into it. And, some were good, some were bad, but we all just kind of contributed, and that was the most fun for me.
Well, I guess, we all played roles. We all had specific roles that we had to play, whether, besides, take away the acting role, we all had responsibilities outside of acting. Excuse me. I guess I assumed the director's spot. I assumed the director's spot, and I was kind of running everything, and everybody was coming to me as the focal point. But I wasn't making the sole decisions. I'm very open to, and that's just kind of always been my philosophy behind directing. It's not my project, it's our project. And I took that as in this case, it has to be that way. You can't, one person can't come up with every single thing that's supposed to happen on screen.
Right.
I was probably had the most complete picture at one point, but not always.
Yeah.
And you guys all filled in the gaps and said, okay, well, there's this, and we can do this, we can do this. Just a quick thing. You were the sound guy.
Yep.
For the whole thing. Wayne, you were acting in it.
Acting,
so you kind
editing.
of editing, and me and him took the tail end of the editing responsibilities. Sal was there the day of editing too.
Yep. Well, I also took
And
on a
writing
writing
the
role,
story.
writing
which
role.
I've never done before, right? But I think I from my business world perspective, brought in some structure to the project, right? I mean, I think that's what I like to think I helped add.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
terms of, keeping you guys organized, asking the tough questions that I would ask in a business meeting necessarily, and to get to the crux or the why of, what the story is, and why is this character doing what they're doing, and are people going to understand, from point A to point B, what the storyline is. Is it too confusing? And, were there holes? And, as it turns out, as we were editing, there were holes, and we had to still film on Sunday, and those are the things you just couldn't have to plan. You couldn't plan for that.
Well, we were edited, I would say 3/4 of the way through, and we literally said, you know what, we need something else here. There was something missing, and you came up with the idea of putting in bringing back Krista, who played Agent X. She was the big no-no for anybody who's not
The secret
familiar with
spy.
it so far. The secret spy. And she came in to film an extra scene. And you filmed an extra scene also.
And at one point, we were actually going to go a different way. And the last minute, we changed it. We were going to have me narrating a lot of it from the other side of the phone.
Yeah.
And we just agreed it wasn't really necessary because, like, you set it up the first time. You don't have to hear what's going on the other side.
Well,
then you can move things along
That's only because my
quicker.
acting was so amazing that you knew what
Yeah,
everybody was saying.
Bravo. Dan, let's give him a golf clap, shall we?
But this is our project.
And then you just fill it in with different shots that are necessary, like filler stuff that makes, sense to the story. Yeah. So it's nice. You were saying before that, some things like on the fly when you're filming, because now you're in a new location. Even if we did our scouting already, it still feels like a new location when you're put in that spot. And what happens, as long as this is to filmmakers who want to do this, as long as you know what the exact story, what needs to happen. Like if you want a certain shot, it's not working, maybe you got to move on. You have to do different things, but as long as you really know what has to be seen, because you don't have time to go back that many times, make sure you hit the essentials. You could always fill it after with different things, but get those key moments, and then, if you have to, you shorten it up. If you have to, you lengthen it up if you have the time.
Yeah, and I thought one of the interesting things was not just about our film and watching all the other films. I think there were 20 in total. Somewhere
21.
21 total films that were submitted to this Winter Film Awards.
I'll give you the specifics in a second. I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. But, in watching all the other films, you can tell, there's certain things in this time span that you can't prepare for, right? Weather or, what the atmosphere is going to be like that day in Grand Central. We only got an hour to shoot in Grand Central. At one point, there was a choir of 50 people standing around in the middle of Grand Central Station, Grand Central Station singing. It's like, okay, I guess we need to do our shot somewhere else. You just don't know what's going to happen. And, we saw other films where we knew it rained on Saturday or Sunday, so that means they didn't film the day in Grand Central that they should have, or that had the time allotted. They filmed on the next day, and they had to deal with weather. They had to deal with rain. They had to deal with other things that whether you like it or not, you got to deal with.
And some filmmakers use it to their advantage with the rain, like on the park bench with that.
There was one about a samurai that we saw that was the guy was sitting there on the park bench. It actually made it much more
absolutely
dramatic.
Yes.
I said, but I know those filmmakers are sitting there going, "Oh my God, it's raining! I can't get this pickup shot that I need." But
as long as you have a raincoat for the camera,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But that's what it is. You have to go with the flow when you're filming in that time constraints.
Yeah.
Nothing's supposed to shake you too much. You just go, hey, this happened. Let's either use it or move on.
Well,
got to make those split
Let's take
decisions.
1 second just to analyze the filmmakers that were a part of this. There were 30 teams that applied to do this. Only 27 were accepted into the challenge. Only 21 of those teams completed the challenge.
Oh, is that true?
That's
I didn't
Yeah,
realize that.
only 21 completed the challenge. I mean, that, as daunting as it was going through all of this process, I couldn't imagine not turning something in.
Yep.
That would have been completely disheartening to
And
go
that's
through
the
this.
beauty of the challenge is you have to submit. It's supposed to be no matter what.
Yeah.
This is your product after this much time. Make it happen. To kind of back out, unless you lost footage or something real technical, like it's too late. It's destroyed for some reason. I would understand. Other than that, make it work. Do something with the editing.
It's
is where the story is really told. Yeah,
Six
sometimes.
teams didn't make
Wow.
it. That's a good.
Hey, maybe
portion.
it'll try next time. Don't give up, guys.
I hope so.
Try again. Definitely.
It's like when you go into the police academy, right? And they say, look around, look to your left, look to your right. One ears won't be here at the end, right? So, that type of thing, right? So everything has its challenges, definitely. But it's also a lot of fun. I mean, it's an experience that you get to gel as a team. You kind of get to refine your collaborative process. You get to get really slick at editing because you got to do it really quickly. And if you could have seen the beads of sweat rolling off Joe's head, you would have known how intense it was here that day. So, yeah, all a good time.
48 hours.
I mean,
of
look
sweat.
what happened to Joe's head.
Speaking of my head, man, I don't know what happened here.
Shaved it. All right.
For
I
those
guess
of you
the
who can't see
weather's
it,
getting warm.
I shaved my head completely bald. So,
I'm sure they can see the shine off the.
yeah. Well, in the camera, but if they're on iTunes, they can't see.
I think the sound changed also. The sound waves are bouncing off. The hair's not absorbing it
you can hear the
anymore.
baldness.
Right. Wow. But
Now
overall,
that I've completely sidetracked us, go
that's
ahead.
right. No, overall it was a great challenge. I mean, the film in itself, and once it got to the editing process, one thing you have to realize when you're doing a challenge like this is you sometimes got to get past yourself. If you're too picky, sometimes you have to let things go, you know. But there's always stuff. I mean, obviously, every filmmaker, every artist sometimes knows that it's never over. It's never really finished. How long could you really go on to constantly edit and change it? I mean, you could, reshoots and everything if you want to make it perfect. Yeah. But in the end, a challenge like this, you have to take what you got and make it work out of that. You can't hope, hey, I wish I had one more shot. If you could do it and you have the time, yes. But if you can't, this is what it is at the time. So I think that shows talent as well sometimes. Not that we're tooting our own horn. I mean that for all of the people that submitted.
It's not just about us. It's about everybody who was involved in this. So what an amazing experience that we all got to do this, and with the criteria that we had, everybody had to follow the same criteria. They had to be in Grand Central Station. They had 1 hour to do it. Everyone did that. Everyone had to include the tagline in it, and it had to be creative. It couldn't be something that like, okay, we're just going to throw this tagline out there. It had to be part of what was going on, and everybody got assigned a genre. There were 9 genres. It was really more than that because for our genre that we got was cop or spy.
Correct.
You were allowed to choose either or. So there were really more than 9 genres that we were assigned.
Zombie or musical. That was one that was too.
Yeah, that's an interesting conundrum, right? If you get thrown the choice of zombie or musical, which one you do. I think they were going to be generous. I think you could have done both. I think you had
could have combined.
I think you had the option to do zombie musical, but I didn't see any of those submitted.
I really wouldn't have wanted to see that.
We all saw Zombie Prom. I think let's just leave it at that.
Well, we directed a local theater play of Zombie Prom years ago. So for us, it was like, all right,
it's done.
It's been
somebody
done.
did it already.
But there was a chick flick that was really cool. One of the ones that was submitted that was done really well, and there was a zombie film that's been doing really well.
48Z was the name of the zombie film.
48Z, yeah, it was really done really well. And one of the other films that I really liked, was Scared Awake is doing really well, out there as well. So, just tons of talent out there involved in the competition and overall. So,
and we're still in the crux of the competition. We're waiting. They're not announcing the winners until June 19th.
Correct.
Which is Father's Day this year, so my kids are going to be alone.
They're showing the film. Yeah, the sacrifice you have to take as a filmmaker.
Independent filmmakers, the sacrifices you must make. No barbecued ribs for Joe on Sunday, June 19th.
Well, happy Father's Day to you fathers out there, but we'll be watching a film that day.
There's a lot of great people involved with this project. I mean, if you don't know, the Winter Film Awards, it was started as an all-volunteer women and minority-run organization founded in 2011 by a bunch of New York City filmmakers and art enthusiasts. And, it was about making independent films more accessible to the public, providing driven, talented artists the opportunity to break through competitive barriers and establish meaningful careers in film. And I think they've, justified that mission. I think they've reached that goal. From 2011, we're now in 2016. There's been, I think, at least 4 or 5 48-hour challenges, and there's also multiple events that go on throughout the year. 4 to 6 events in New York City, actually. Panels, networking parties, and other film-related events that happen. They have some great sponsors. Mm-hmm. The sponsors that end up on board are huge names like AJA Video Systems, B&H, Canon USA, A&S Comics, Bluestone Vodka, just to name a few. But, it's a real great opportunity, and we're really happy to have been part of the project.
Yeah. It's exciting and sleep depriving.
Joe, I think you had the least amount of sleep.
I probably had the least amount of sleep. On that first night, I got 2 hours of sleep after working on the storyline the first night, and then going into filming and just more nerves than anything else. I probably could have got a couple hours more, but I was just laying awake thinking about what's going to happen in the following hours.
What was interesting about this shoot is, for a change, it was actually filmed in Queens and Manhattan, which I live in Queens, so I'm usually coming out to the island. I usually get the least sleep, but at this one occasion, it was kind of nice. I'm like, let's do it. So, and let's speak about locations. So besides Grand Central Station, so I'm selling a house, and it has an apartment, and that just wound up being another good spot because the tenants moved out already. That's going through a closing soon. soon, so it was empty, and we jumped at the chance of using that. So that was one cool thing.
One of the big challenges sometimes on filming any movie, and you got to kind of, be, you have to kind of be giving in this fact is locations. Being able to get someplace where you're just allowed to film, where you can film. We had acquired a location on another film one time, and it was a live convenience store that was being used, and there were sounds. There were people in and out of the convenience store.
We set up a second cash register to not interfere with business, and it was done well.
But their business kept going on, and
yes.
we had to deal with the fact that there was a refrigerator that sounded like a freight train coming through the middle of the video.
Well, I think one of the most interesting things we had to deal with in this shoot was our friend Dan over there was to be hit by a car in one scene.
Yep.
And, on the block that we were filming, we had to do that take, I don't know, let's say 50 to call it a round number. I don't even know how many times we did that take in multiple angles, et cetera, et cetera. And, I think the amount of times Joe parallel parked his car because of the oncoming traffic.
And we're trying to save a space. Spaces are hard to come by in Astoria, Queens.
Save a
so
space.
We're knocking him over, and we're coming back into the space.
Save a space, not actually get me run over.
Yeah.
And
I didn't want to actually
just
hit him with
one
the
car hit me.
So, Dan, how many times did you fall down, do you think? I mean,
At least 30. At least 30.
30 times?
Yeah. And I actually have a big bruise and a scrape on my knee because the same knee I kept landing on.
Then he did
That's
something
dedication.
right. That is dedication, right? That's
There you go. Casualties of war, as we like to call them.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was like that. We were extras, not to again to our own home, but we were extras in Dark Knight Rises. Not that that's the biggest thing in the world, but we did so many nice things that it was a shame that it's edited out. And then you realize, of course, it's edited out. Me and Joe were jumping over banisters, we're landing on the people. It was in the stadium scene, with the explosion. So of course we want to feel that it was real. We're acting way over the top. If the camera really spots, we're not going to show those guys because ridiculous. Then the audience is thinking, what happened to them? But we're not the main characters. So it's just funny, you live and learn. But I took some bruises in that one.
Life of an extra. You don't get on
30
camera
times.
unless you're doing nothing.
Right, exactly.
You know what?
You learn that fast.
The worst part was trying to take the hit, fall down, and realizing in halfway down on the fall that that was not good. So it was like I know I just wasted a hit by a car.
So, yeah.
And I threw myself into the ground for no reason.
Right.
So, given your stature, you clearly played the perfect henchman in a spy film, right? I mean, you were out to get Joe. Not to give away too much of the story, but you had a partner.
He's 6'6", by the way.
There you go. Oh,
Silent but deadly type, and
really, that's
What are you, a
short.
fart?
that's what we called. That was his nickname, right?
I thought he was at least 6'8". I mean, 6'6". I'm a little disappointed now. I gotta be honest.
I cut him short.
Depends on the way the light hits him.
Yeah, right. And you had a partner henchman, Noah, and you guys had some really great banter in the movie. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. And
Well, maybe you shouldn't talk about anything because his guy doesn't speak that much in it.
He had banter. I was silent for the most part. I had one line, but
so what did you think about that improvisation though that took place?
He was hysterical. I mean, he was right on point with it, just talking about whatever. And my favorite thing is the scene after I get hit by the car. We're walking in, and he's right back to the banter, and it's like, yeah, no big deal. I didn't just get run over. It's just keep talking about the same thing, like
The
like
big
didn't
guy can
faze him.
take it, right?
Yeah.
Didn't
So,
mean
but
to-
I thought he was funny. He was really good with that. I couldn't improvise like he did. So.
And I think that's one of the beauties of working on a project like this, right? I mean, for the writers and the directors and the producers, it's kind of like having a talent like Noah, who's not here today, but having a talent like him to be able to improvise at that level, it brings so much to the table that you don't have to worry about. I mean, because then you can just go back and we edited a ton out. You have to. I mean, the amount of footage. I mean, how much footage do you think we had total to get down to 7 minutes?
He said some great dialogue that was cut.
yeah.
That's just what it comes down to.
Right. And it was very Pulp Fiction-esque for us, and that is like, we didn't make a film like Pulp Fiction, but
Well,
it was
we were
very
obviously
reminiscent.
inspired by Pulp Fiction. There's no two ways about it.
Or Reservoir Dogs, even.
Reservoir Dogs. It's the black and white suits.
Yeah, the black and white suits and the henchman banter, all that stuff. Was really cool.
I will totally take credit and say we were paying homage to Quentin Tarantino. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Sounds good.
But
to
I
me.
kept thinking Pulp Fiction too. The two henchmen, and I kept looking at him and going, I guess you're
Well,
Travolta.
it becomes a stereotype. It's like the modern stereotype from Pulp Fiction, and then you just tend to use it from other films sometimes like that.
Sure.
Just especially in a 48-hour challenge. All right, we got to get the quintessential stereotypes. It almost goes through that. The hero, the villain, this and that. And, when you have longer time, you have the time more to develop the character, deeper aspects of each character.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you do the best you can with fast introductions of the characters, and you go from there.
And that was one of the reasons we ended up shooting on Sunday. Right, I mean, in order to tie up the loose ends and in order to make the story connect, we realized we needed some extra scenes, we needed some extra dialogue to make that happen.
We had the thing written out, but to by the time you get into editing, we had to eliminate certain aspects that called for the fact that now, oh boy, if we eliminate this, now it's missing X, Y, and Z. So that's why we had to bring them in to create a new storyline. In essence, the storyline involved the entire process,
Right.
which is it's beautiful that happens.
And I think for us, we were focused more on the story. We didn't focus a lot on effects. We didn't focus a lot on other elements. I mean, we focused on the sound. We did, the music. We made sure the music played into it correctly. I mean, it didn't always, the plight of the 48-hour challenge is like, well, all the levels set correctly. No, and there's some things you just have to forego to make it happen, because at the crux, we wanted to make sure the story flowed. We wanted to make sure that the character development was there and all the other important elements, and some things you did have to sacrifice.
Absolutely. And he came, at a point, it's so easy to watch it back, and he said, we got to cut the music a little shorter there. We have to do this and that. But under those conditions, like, okay, it's good enough. We definitely got the job complete. The assignment has been done. Now it's like, do we have any time to do this? But also, you do have to remember, anyone who might do this next year, is there's a little uploading time. So when you're sending it from together, you might think, hey, we have an hour. If it takes longer than that for some reason, that won't be a good situation.
Well, I think it was interesting to watch, the story told in that short a time. Because you don't have a scene where you sit down and you know what's going on and you explain it. Everything is just actions explaining the story.
There's no setup. You have to just jump into the film as it's going and be able to tell a complete story from A to B. And that's part of what we tried to convey. I mean,
it almost is a genre of itself, like the 48-hour genre. Yeah. Because to get it done, it takes a life of its own. It's not like any other films. You say a short film, it doesn't mean it took you short to film it. It's just a short film. It could took you 2 years to do a short film.
Well, in essence, what they say, it's 3 to 1. Okay, so every hour that you shoot on a set is generally 3 hours to edit. Is basically what they say. And, with that in mind, we shot for, how long were we actually shooting for? 12 hours?
All day Saturday, right?
10 hours.
About 10.
About 10. It was about 9:42 in the morning to 7:50.
So figure 10 hours, we should have 30 hours of editing. Where did the 48 hours go?
How did we even end up with music in this movie? I don't even know.
It was well, that was the other thing. We were responsible for the music. We couldn't go out and get and I don't know why this popped in my head, Boys to Men. That's horrible.
I didn't know you wanted Boys to Men, too.
I'm hoping we could edit this out of the podcast.
No, let's keep it on record. Now we know what Joe is really thinking.
I don't know why they popped in.
That was more for the romantic or maybe even the buddy film, but I don't think for the...
We're not going to make him music supervisor for the next one. You're out. That's it.
We couldn't get a cover song, is what I'm saying.
Of Boys to Men. We need to all have another glass of wine.
Yes. My glass is a little light.
Yeah, we maybe could have put Motown Philly in one of them, but
there you go.
But
well, the point I was trying to make was that you can't go out and get a cover song and just throw it in there and call it a day. We had to write and create and record, and do the whole process of scoring the film. You couldn't just go out and grab something and throw in something.
And it wasn't perfect.
It wasn't perfect. There's no two ways about it. It wasn't perfect.
If we get the opportunity, we don't know what the stipulations are, but if we get the opportunity to re-edit this,
absolutely right,
we'll probably take another stab at it. And I know, Dan's had some ideas for a prequel and a
sequel
and some other things. I think we came up with some pretty cool stuff around the drop off.
This will become a complete web series.
Yeah, we might you might see some more from us on the drop off.
drop off. Ben dropped off. to be delivered.
It'll just be what's that?
Return to sender.
The pickup.
That's like the transporter, right? John Statham
John
made his
Statham.
career. He made his career on the transporter. Right?
Jason Statham.
Jason Statham. That's it. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. All right. So, listen, this video is still out there. We need votes on it, basically, and the votes come in form of liking the video
On YouTube.
Or retweeting our tweets.
or retweeting
liking,
our tweets.
Everything.
Everything. I mean, it's all good.
Yeah.
You can check out our Instagram at Hecla Kane Creations, and you can hit us up if you have any questions or you want to. Find out any more information, we'll hit you back at Hecla Kane Inc. on Twitter. And our, if you want to check out any of our other posts or anything on YouTube, it's Hecla Kane Creations. Somebody can help me out here.
You're doing great by yourself.
This is more fun.
Let me wrap this up. So we have a whole bunch of social media stuff out there. You want to check us out on Facebook at Hecla Kane. You want to check us out on Twitter at Hecla Kane, and you want to check us out on Instagram at Hecla Kane. You can find us on any of those locations. Our YouTube video, you can check out the Winter Film Awards #WFA48, and hopefully you'll like our video and give us a thumbs up.
HeclaKane.com as well is our
and the website.
Yeah,
that little
out
thing.
if you want. That might help.
And all of our Imperfect podcasts are located there as well.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.